Councilmember Bracco, were you thinking like on commercial or residential? Commercial. So when I wanted this item on the agenda, first of all, thank you to Public Health who was here. Thank you to the members of the public that spoke up and the community letters that we got. So there's 6 more ways that I think that we can basically enhance and improve the health of our residents, and that would be through outdoor dining areas, entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing, and even multi-unit housing common areas. Those are 6 that I'd like to put on the table. I'm not committed to any of them, but I'm also not committed to just not doing anything at all. I think this is an opportunity for us to continue that forward motion that we already did, as the mayor said, with parks. So with that, I'm open to any discussion, unless you want me to just start putting them out there.
Could you repeat those? Yeah.
Sure. So we've got outdoor dining areas, entryways, service areas, public events, multi-unit housing, or multi-unit housing common areas.
What exactly are you proposing for the outdoor dining? It's already illegal to smoke.
It's
in
not
a restaurant.
You're allowed to do it in 50% of the outdoor dining.
Really?
Yep.
Hardly anybody smokes anymore outside. I mean, I've not encountered smoke in a long time. That's why, to me, this is not necessary. I think the business owners should be able to have some section of smokers if they want to have smoking customers, but that's up to them, or up to whatever we do here. But it is only half that's required. Okay, Councilmember Marks?
I agree with it, because I hate secondhand smoke. Councilmember Hilton, just explain, what do you mean by multi-housing? I'm just curious.
So anything that's 2 units or more. Sorry, anything that's 2 units or more.
So indoors also? Is that what you're saying?
He said common areas.
No, that was the second part, was common.
He had both, yeah.
The first part, he said, was housing, so just let me have a picture of what that looks like. Because you know how I take it is that you mean no smoking inside the actual apartment.
Yeah, so many of the newer buildings, they don't allow it. So like anybody that wants to go, most of the modern places, you're not smoking, right? They don't allow it, but many of the older, let's just say like market rate, apartments, there are no, let's say you have a smoker on one side and a non-smoker on the other. There's nothing to prevent that person from smoking within their home and maybe going out the windows and, an older home
And through the
creeping in
vents,
the other.
air vents.
Yeah, so that's what I'd be, that's the targeted audience
So
for the multi-housing.
smoke-free buildings is what you're basically saying.
For housing, correct.
I guess it sounds great, but at Los Animas Park, people smoke in the parking lot still. They smoke in the park, and we're not going to be calling the police out there every single time they're smoking. And I wonder and worry about how we're going to enforce this.
So you can, you enforce it through the lease. Obviously, it's through education, letting those tenants know that it's not allowed. There's many things that aren't allowed in people's homes, right? That causing health to, a detriment to other people's health. It's not about the enforcing and trying to create more staff time and that. It's more based on the education part. And that's for the inside the housing. If you want to go into some of the other areas, like multi-unit, like the common areas, let's say you wanted to start with common areas now and then go to multi-housing later. There is a ton of money out there from private Santa Clara County Public Health Department and others that will work with those tenants to, whether it's signage or how do I put this in my lease so I'm not just being arbitrarily telling someone you can't do something when it's not written in there. There are ways to work with others on this.
I have a question on Councilmember Marks' exact thing, because if you're talking apartments, apartments and apartment common areas, why wouldn't that be the responsibility of apartment management to enforce the apartment owner's rules? Why does that involve a city ordinance?
I don't
Okay,
understand
that's
what you're
our-
saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
It'd be the
I
same
think-
thing as like,
I'm just saying, it would be for the apartment building, right, to say it's a no, just like hotels. I will never get a hotel room that has been smoked in,
Right,
you
right.
know, it's the
and
same.
I'm not
kinda
saying
thing.
that, I'm not
Right.
saying that government needs to go in there and do anything. It's,
Oh, well, that's, right, well, that's how changing the ordinance.
well, yeah, it's the same thing as having a smoke detector in the, you know,
Right.
this, the unit, and it's
If I
required
may,
as a
just
carbon
look,
monoxide detector.
I'm sorry, looking at the existing ordinance, which is in the packet, there is enforcement, it's potentially an infraction. However, there's also an enforcement mechanism through business licenses and requiring businesses to self-certify that they're following these rules. So it's kind of an unusual enforcement approach that attempts to put the enforcement onus on the owner, actually.
Yeah, and then it also comes with education, right? So if we want to open up a business, or me and you buy a duplex together, you know, we would know at the counter, like, hey, just so you know, we don't allow smoking in these units.
Yeah.
You know, we don't expect you to get that information from some big real estate company because it's mom and pop. So, you know,
I think
yeah,
it-
you would have that information, being able to give it to them.
If I could, I think
Okay.
it also allows to, it helps tenants, right, who, you know, we know lots of folks are desperate for housing right now. There's not a lot of options that are affordable or even at market rate, right? And so I think it gives them some leverage if there is a city ordinance, something to be enforced, right? Because they don't own the building, they don't own the unit, they're just renters, right? But if there's nothing there to protect them and to help them keep their families healthy and, you know, safe from secondhand smoke, then they have nothing, right? So I think it helps give our residents who need it, you know, a helpful tool to keep healthy.
And would this, and would this just be tobacco, or are you talking marijuana also?
Yep, and that came up last
vaping.
time too, and that's what public health said, is that their communication efforts and enforcement is for all secondhand smoke.
Just as no smoking.
Everything, like anything you could think of that would cause that, correct.
Okay, Councilmember Tovar.
Thank you. Jimmy, I don't know, this question's for you or maybe Councilmember Hilton. So in regards to this here, these ordinance, so two questions. The enforcement portion of it, if we were to move forward with this, the enforcement portion, who's responsible for that and what sort of are the penalties? And is that something that the city's going to be in charge of now, that we're going to be the enforcers? And part two of my question in regards to the businesses.
Just say that?
And I think Councilmember Barkles said, or somebody said it was 50%. Have we spoken to business owners on the effect that this might happen? I've never smoked, I don't smoke, but I'm just curious if there's been any feedback or input from business owners on this possible ordinance.
So to answer your first question, the city attorney did discuss that. He was saying that it's embedded already, the enforcement side of it is embedded already in our charter, and it is passed on to that individual. So it is not it's not the city going like, hey, you just came over here and said you can't smoke. It's put upon them. But I also want you to look back at the education side of it and the empowerment that you would give to a small family that has, like, I can't go anywhere else, you know?
No,
So
and that's not
think
what I'm
about
asking.
that.
I understand that. I've
Yeah.
done a lot of research. That's not my question. My question is, again, if this ordinance moves forward, and if I own a complex or whatever, and I have tenants that aren't abiding by it, who is going to enforce that, you know, that this ordinance? Is it?
It would, if it is written in your lease, right? And free market, you can write in whatever you want. If it's written in your lease that you shall not do this, right? Then that would trigger a break in your lease,
Okay.
and you wouldn't be able to live there.
Okay,
Well- Is that enough
I think maybe
enforcement?
the city attorney should answer. Like, I'm looking at our packet, page 147, and right there it says, any person violating any of the provisions of this chapter shall be guilty of an infraction punishable according to city and state codes. So it does come back on the city.
Right.
And that's why things that are difficult to enforce or are time-consuming, when we already don't have enough police officers to tend to the things, is something to consider.
Right, and again, if I just wrap up, again, I'm in favor, I like this, but again, those are the questions that have not been answered for me, is what's the next step in regards to enforcement, but also
Yeah.
the feedback from business owners, and to answer or to comment on Councilmember Hilton's comment at the end there, that's right, I mean, if it's in your lease, it's a reason for you to not, or to break your lease, but when Alexander Station was built, in the lease, it stated that no one could put anything on their balcony, but you see there's stuff everywhere on their balcony. So I'm just saying that it may be an ordinance, but if it's not enforced, it's really not going to do any difference.
It just
So-
feels good.
But
It
it's up to
doesn't- yeah.
the landlords, right, to the
No, that-
property
right.
managers to enforce that.
No, and that's what I'm
Right.
saying. I mean, and
And if it's in the contract, then they have something to enforce. And if it's a city ordinance, then if it gets to that point, then our officers will enforce it. Right, it's an infraction.
Or code enforcement is already taking action on the one you
enforcement,
brought
yeah.
up, that's not
It
even.
also gives the business owners or the building owners something, some teeth, right? Some
yeah,
teeth.
and I'm not questioning that. I'm just bringing
sounded
that
like
out.
that
And
was
then
your
again,
question.
the final part of my question is the feedback for business owners and the effect it may have on their businesses. So, I mean, I don't know if
Well,
that's.
the beauty of that is that I wouldn't recommend staff go out and do this huge study session on it. Take it off the table. Don't talk about it anymore. Let's focus on something that I think we've already been focusing on, which is the multifamily unit housing. I think maybe we might be able to gel something there. Take the smoking off the table.
I would
don't
support,
focus on
I
it.
would support the public areas of the multifamily housing.
Yeah, of
Right,
course.
there-
I would-
that's a start.
I would support that, but everything else, no.
If we could keep secondhand smoke just to those areas, I think then that would make sense, but we can't, right? It
I'm
wafts
just
through
telling
the
you what
air.
I would support.
Right, and I'm just telling you, I think that if, it would be logical if we could contain secondhand smoke, but we can't. Yeah.
I think what I said is logical, but okay. All right, so I've stated my position would be if we add anything at all, it would just be the common areas. If that even in fact gives more teeth to the apartment building owners or management companies, I don't even know. But that is certainly something, a certain distance from entryways, things like that, but certainly not inside of people's apartments because that we cannot be enforcing, and I do not support anything more on local businesses.
I would agree with the mayor's. If that's your recommendation? I
Well,
mean,
that's my position, so if,
Okay.
I'm happy to make that. Is this even a motion? I don't think this
Well,
is a motion.
hold
This is a
on.
direction.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those would be my two things to direct. Councilmember Tovar is saying the same thing, okay?
Well, I think we have to have more discussion because, I mean, I'm a non-smoker, so if I lived in an apartment,
I
it's
think
gonna
we're all
be very
non-smokers.
uncomfortable having my neighbors smoking. Because I've been in Gilroy City when the upstairs people were smoking pot, and that was constantly coming down into the restaurant. That was not pleasurable.
Mhm.
Or when I was outside and someone was smoking a cigar at the next table, that's not pleasurable. So I'm just the opposite. I understand you don't want to infringe on, the people's rights, but.
No, I didn't say
on
people,
on
the owner, the
non-smokers-
business owner.
No, see,
But
I
for me,
personally
it's the
am-
business
I
owner.
personally am leaning towards saying even the multi-housing.
So secondhand
people.
smoke infringes on people's health.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. And if they
Right, but we
don't
can all
smoke,
move from
they
it.
don't-
No,
They
no,
don't
no, no,
deserve to
no.
have
You-
it.
you-
I mean,
we
in
don't all have
certain-
the ability to move.
No, as children, you cannot, because that was my life for the first 18 years, and it was
Oh, it's-
heavy, heavy, heavy smoke. I can't
Well,
believe I
let's
still
correct it
breathe.
for somebody else.
Can't believe I
Yeah,
still breathe.
exactly.
So
Okay.
here's my suggestion. I would like to see if we can, okay, so if we all agree on the multi-unit common areas to restrict, you cannot smoke in common areas. I think we're all in agreement on that. But I want to see if we can get a majority to agree at least on the multi-unit housing before we push that off the table. If
And we
have-
didn't talk about public events.
No, we didn't talk about it yet. I'm just
Well,
trying to
let's
get.
do the multi-housing first, and then move to public
Yeah.
events.
So I'm going to put that out there as this is an item that I'd like to see. And the mayor is okay
Okay.
with common areas. It sounds like
So-
we have a majority. for
Okay,
that.
so there were two, hang on, yeah, there were two that supported common areas. Common areas, that was it, right? Two supported common areas.
I
Did anyone
support
else
common areas.
support?
I think
Well-
everybody
Well,
supports.
wait a minute, wait.
Yeah, No, I'll, hang
Okay,
on,
go ahead.
okay?
We'll do one by one.
Okay, right, so everybody supports common areas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, how many support banning smoking in all outdoor areas of restaurants?
Okay,
Dining
that
areas.
one. Yep,
That's two people?
No, hold on, they're not.
they're talking.
This
They're
is
not
for-
You
deciding.
guys need to pay attention,
This would be for
please.
outdoor dining.
Okay, I've just asked how many people want to try to ban smoking from the businesses in Gilroy that allow smoking outdoors? 1, 2, 3, so that fails. Okay, so I'm crossing that one off. Okay, how many want to try to ban smoking from inside people's own apartments?
Yeah, so 2 or more units,
Multi-unit,
multifamily
multi-housing.
housing.
Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
duplexes.
if it's multi.
any-
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 or more, 2 or more.
So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that one worked.
Mhm.
Okay. And public events. Who wants to ban smoking from public events?
If I'm at a
That's
park,
2, so
Beam
that failed.
festival, yeah,
Okay,
they're
that
too
one,
close, there's too many
Yeah.
people.
okay,
Well-
that one fails.
Oh, okay, I was still thinking.
Oh, well, there's, that
Do
would
you,
mean
do
you
you
would be
under, do you
3.
have any clarifying questions, or do
Well,
you
let's
understand?
clarify it, you know, is it on the outer fringe? You know, like if you're at a concert, you're inside the concert, you know, I would not want smoking there. But if you're outside where the concessions are, do you mean the whole?
Yeah, so
you're
I'll
talking
give a
about Gilroy
specific
events?
example, Downtown Live, right?
Mhm,
We know the
mhm.
areas of Downtown Live. It's a
Mhm.
public event, right?
Yeah.
They pulled a permit for it. This would say, you can
No
have the
smoking.
permit, but just so you know,
No smoking
there is no
anywhere.
smoking in your event.
Councilman,
Alright.
you would still only make 3, so,
Okay, yeah, we'd
okay,
only
so it
make
doesn't,
3,
okay, so that one doesn't.
Mayor,
Alright.
sorry,
Yes.
can I ask a question again? And I'm not changing
Uh-huh.
my vote, but I'm gonna go back to my initial comments about the enforcement of this. I'm
Right.
sorry.
I know.
And I have
I
to
am
ask
aware,
because
but-
what I'm hearing is, and I think you read it out, and again, I think that the landlord should be responsible. I mean, they decide, but I'm okay with what we're
But you
voting
were
on.
in on the inside
Right, right,
apartments
right.
one.
Well, for multi-units, right? Right.
Yeah,
But
inside, not
right,
just the common areas.
right. So I guess my question, and maybe this is a question for our police chief, I don't know. So what I'm hearing, if we move forward with this, then it goes to our police department. So now they're gonna drop everything to go cite somebody for smoking.
No,
right?
they're probably
No?
never going to get to it because it's going to
No,
be
I'm
on the
not-
bottom of the
I'm just-
priority
no, I'm
list.
just laying it out, I just wanna know, right?
Yes,
The whole
please.
force is gonna, SWAT is gonna go over there. That's not what
Okay,
Jimmy said either,
please.
yeah.
In a lot of these situations and ordinances where there is a potential fine, that is an absolute last resort. And in some of these things, we rarely issue fines at all because the education piece or just asking people to stop is enough. So I totally agree that enforcement, and let's be honest about this, you know, when you receive hundreds of calls a night, a smoking call is probably not going to ever get a call for response from an officer. So we would focus on the education.
No, and thank you,
Absolutely does.
Jimmy, for that. And sorry, I just, again, I'm not changing my vote here, obviously, but as a landlord, if this is an ordinance and one of my tenants is smoke, or wherever, I call police, they never show up, so it's a battle back and forth,
It's
right?
not that's not how you would do it, though.
Okay, I
That's
want to
not the
ask
real
one
world.
other question, and then I would like to go to public comment, if that's all right. Okay, the one other
You
question
keep
is,
your comments here, I'll keep mine in mind.
right now, this council has said the multi-living apartment, that's the only one that both in common areas and inside. That's what
Correct.
has had a majority support. The last thing that Councilmember Hilton mentioned was entryways service, what was it? Something about service. Service, don't worry about that. Okay, that's off the table. Okay, then let's go to public comment.
I received one speaker card at the moment. I think we'll have a second one shortly. And
Okay,
it's Bill O'Connor.
okay.
You're worried about how you're going to police public events. Why is that any different as to how you police parks, okay? I mean, if you come in and you say, you're going to have this meeting tomorrow from 4 to 7 outside, that sounds like a public event, you know, and I think I wouldn't want smoking there either, okay? So, I mean, you don't have to bring the police in to do it, but you tap somebody on the shoulder that says, hey, you're not supposed to smoke here, like you would say in a park. I don't see the difference, and I think, you know, banning, you know, as a member of the public, if I go to one of these events, I would prefer that they weren't smoking there, okay? And I think you're making too much of a deal on how you're gonna police it as opposed to just telling people they shouldn't smoke there. Thank you.
Good point.
Next speaker?
Valentina Ronales.
Good evening. I would concur with him. I think we're making it a bigger issue of like policing it versus like, I also am like, police aren't gonna pick this up. But I do think that it's a step in the right direction for overall health. And I think like if we could get beyond like how is it enforcement, because I think about other cities, like Great America, you're not allowed to smoke at Great America, you're not allowed to smoke at Gilroy Gardens. How do they handle that? I think that just having, if this is an ordinance, then there's accountability for the people who are in charge of these events to make it clear of like, hey, this isn't happening anymore. It's not open nilly-willy to smoke. We're moving more to a smoke-free, particularly in public places. I think that like if we can take a step back and like, because on one end you're like, oh my God, you're regulating everything we do. Like it's my right to smoke if I want to smoke. I get that. Multi-housing, it sucks to have a child with asthma that you got smoke from your neighbors coming in, the weed, the meth, like it sucks. And I do think that this is a great
Well, meth is already illegal, okay?
well, but it still happens, right? Like, unfortunately, you can still smell your neighbors doing things they're not supposed to. I think it's a great initiative, and I would highly encourage us all to, like, take a step back and not so focus on how is it going to get policed, because it is like, we can't bombard everything. Everything's like the police, the police, the police. I think more conscientious citizens will kind of go with the flow. Pretty much everywhere it's kind of not smoking. Other cities have these ordinances, so it's not too far of a reach to bring it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get another speaker card?
Yes, Madam Mayor, it's
Okay.
Michelle Nelson.
All right.
Good evening. Yeah, I wasn't planning on saying anything tonight either. If I had my way, there would be no smoking anywhere on the planet, under any circumstances. Maybe a closet with ventilation. Maybe. I would encourage you to put these notices wherever you can. It's a backup. So I'm very, very allergic to cigarette smoke. I've been around the world and I've had to limit places I've gone because I have such a bad reaction. You know, I was in a movie theater. Let's see what time it is. Where's the time? Oh, there. You know, I would go to the management, you know, back in the day when smoking, you know, people smoked and it wasn't allowed. So I would tattle and give them a hard time and they stop. Most of the time, just a simple, would you please put that out, is sufficient. But sometimes you have to ask for backup. Doesn't have to be, you know, SWAT, you know, or anything. It's just, you know, ask the manager. But it's something that we can point to. I was in an airport one time and somebody was smoking and all I needed to do was point. We didn't speak the same language, but I pointed and the person stopped. So anything you can do to stop secondhand smoke, this person would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you can fill your card later. We can
Yeah.
put you up now.
No. Wait till you get to the microphone, because there's people who are watching.
Okay.
The meeting's recorded.
My name is
Okay.
William Macanellis, and I want to say something off topic. I would like to thank you for maintaining composure for my boys. I had 10 of them here. Thank you very much. We're going to have a big talk later on. They really enjoyed this meeting.
Glad
So,
someone did.
but the one thing I do want to say on this topic is I'm a big fan of no smoking. And if you're talking about the events, if the event is violating repetitively, don't renew it next year.
Thank you. Okay, so no more public comments?
No more public comments,
All
Madam
right,
Mayor.
closing public comments. All right. Council, what's the direction? Where we left off is multi-family housing, inside and out. Is that the direction
Are we,
with the majority?
are we voting on point by point?
We already
still?
did that.
I just want to re-bring up public events after we heard what the public comment, if anybody's willing to change their mind and maybe see this come before us. It doesn't mean you have to vote on it today, but maybe staff can get more information on it so that when it is presented to us, maybe we can make that.
Yeah.
So
Decision
like at
for
the
public
Veterans
events?
Day Parade, for example, you would say there can't be anybody smoking at the Veterans Day Parade.
Yes.
But
Well,
most of our
public
events are
events, we
more
don't-
contained, right?
yeah.
The parade
I'm
runs a
just
certain
saying
length of.
that these are outdoor things that
Yeah, if I want to enjoy the parade and sit there, I don't want the person next to me smoking, and I don't have to
Yeah.
move
right,
all
but
around.
It's
but
a
you
so-
shared
could move.
space.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
so I'm not supporting that one, but you guys go ahead. Okay, so supporting that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, 5. So that's events, public events. Okay, so are we directing staff then to come back with a revision to Code 19B to include public events, multifamily housing, just multifamily housing? Do I have to say inside and out, or just multifamily housing?
I would just be specific to say 2 units or more. That would be aligned with a lot of the stuff that we talk about for multifamily, 2 units or more.
So yeah, so you're saying even in duplexes,
And I would
2 units or more.
specify inside
Yeah.
and out, just to be safe.
inside and out?
Yes.
Yeah, inside and
So
out.
we all know
So
what
that's
we're
the
talking about.
Yep.
direction. ADUs are single units, right? Okay.
I think there are single
Okay.
units.